Hello everyone, my name is Lee Lachine. I am the state chair from Alabama. I am also the at-large member for the Libertarian State Leadership Alliance. Thank you very much everybody for coming to our free training today. Luckily on the radio this morning I heard that today is National Forgiveness Day. So I'm going to tell you that I had a big charity event in Alabama last night. We drove till about 3 o'clock. We stayed in a budget motel about 40 miles from here. Got about 3 hours of sleep last night. Got up, put a suit on, and here I am. So whatever I screw up today, you have to forgive me for it, right? Our first speaker today, Ms. Carla Howell. You probably know she's the political director for our National Libertarian Party. What she's going to be doing this morning is she's going to be doing her Who's Driving political training. We actually had her at our convention last month. Really got a lot out of this. I think you'll really enjoy this. You'll see from when we first start to when we end, how much you really will improve. It's pretty dramatic. One of the things I did want to point out, the reason that we scheduled Carla in this time slot is the 10 to 12, from 12 to 1 is lunch. If you don't decide you want to go to lunch, we can have Carla stay up here and we can do a little extra training. Hopefully that, because I know you're, the more you do it, the better you become.
Although I do have a media interview.
Okay, well then obviously not.
For part of the time.
Okay. Okay. Tell you a little bit more about Carla. She ran for the U.S. Senate against Ted Kennedy in 2000. Had a record 12% of the vote. She has championed 3 statewide ballot initiatives in Massachusetts, 2 to end the income tax in 2002 and 2008, 1 to cut the state sales tax in half in 2010. The 2002 initiative won 45% of the vote. Each initiative won more votes than the last, reaching just under 1 million. She forced teachers' unions to spend over $12 million to keep taxes from going down. Is that right? Okay. Like I said, it's a little hard to read this morning. Covered extensively throughout Massachusetts by the New York Times, LA Times, Boston Globe, The Economist, Financial Times, USA Today, and numerous nationally syndicated radio shows. She ran for governor against Mitt Romney in 2002, ran for state auditor in 1998, where she received the endorsement of the Boston Herald. She has been the featured guest on the Neil Cavuto. See, I told you. The O'Reilly Factor, Glenn Beck, and Fox Business News. She has participated in hundreds of radio and TV interviews and over 20 live radio and TV debates. She created the Who's Driving political game to train libertarian activists and candidates, and composed the spoof song, How Could I Live Without Filing Taxes? Please welcome Ms. Carla Howell.
Okay, now, I just need our video guy to tell me, am I okay without a mic, or should I do the Las Vegas thing and use the mic?
You know, the mic would be great.
It would be better?
Yeah. Do your Vegas thing. It's great.
Let's see how long this thing is. Yeah.
Get the pull up.
Now, when we're actually playing the game, I'm not sure how we're going to do this, because there'll be 2 people, but we'll have to fake it. Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to blow through this pretty quickly because we don't have a lot of time. I know 2 hours is a long session, but and there's 20 or more of you here. We want to give each of you who wants a chance to practice that opportunity. And each round is 4 minutes. We could shorten it to 3 minutes, but you can see even if we clip through the games, we're going to barely have time to give everybody 1 chance to play. So I'm going to try and do this very quickly, and it really is something we could spend a day on, or we could spend a lifetime on this stuff, actually. But what we're doing, one way to sort of summarize it is, when you listen to any political discourse anywhere, in the media, print media, TV, internet, it doesn't matter. What's happening is big government is driving pretty much 100% of the time, almost, maybe 99% of the time. And what I mean by driving is, our opponents are proposing more big government, continually. In every newspaper, there may be 10 proposals being discussed and in every single daily newspaper in every major city in this country. People are being bombarded with more government, more government. Where's the conversations for less government? They're missing in action. There's very, very few. Even amongst libertarians, because we're just not used to it, we're not doing it. A lot of our candidates aren't doing it. Our candidate websites talk about libertarian philosophy and libertarian principle, but they don't talk about what we'll actually do if elected to create a libertarian society. Now, what is liberty but the absence of government? It's a very small government, or if you're an anarcho-capitalist, no government. It's a heck of a lot less government than what we have today. So to get from here to there, we need to remove lots of it. We need to repeal thousands of laws. Thousands of federal, state, and local bureaucracies have to be dismantled. And all that funding transferred, moved back to the private sector, returned to the people who earned it, so that they can create jobs and fulfill those functions much, much better than government does. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. So what this game is about is training ourselves to change the way we speak about government, and specifically to be proposing less government at every moment possible when we are in a public venue, when we're giving a speech, when we're doing a media interview, when we're in a debate, when we're in everyday political conversations. We want to be talking about shrinking government, repealing laws, ending taxes, dismantling bureaucracies, bringing the troops home, all the time. Now, the person who I consider the gold standard in his ability to do this was Harry Browne, our Libertarian presidential candidate in 1996 and 2000. How many of you got to experience Harry Browne? Not quite half of you. If you haven't had a chance, go online, look for videos, read some of his columns. The guy was a genius. He was just the gold standard for selling liberty. He was always talking about, he talked about ending the federal income tax. Back when the federal budget was 1.9 trillion, he was talking about cutting it to $100 billion. We weren't in any wars then, but he was talking about shrinking the military. What was then 300 some billion down to 50 billion or something like that. Ending the war on drugs, repealing all the anti-gun laws, and he sold them beautifully, credibly. So there's two main things that we need to get a lot better at doing as libertarian spokespersons. One is putting out our agenda all the time, countering that tsunami of big government proposals that are coming at us all the time, interrupting that with, we're talking about shrinking it. And then when you do that, making the case for it by talking about the benefits of liberty, the benefits of ending the income tax, the benefits of bringing the troops home. What's in it for the voters? Why would their life be better if we ended the war on drugs? Why? They don't do drugs? Why would their life be better? Well, let's brainstorm here for a second. Throw out some ideas. Just throw them out.
The SWAT team won't accidentally be hitting your house.
People won't get innocently harmed. We won't be in fear of this happening. I actually know a woman whose adopted son's grandfather was killed by somebody, a SWAT team that came in and accidentally killed the grandfather because they were going after his grandson who they thought was a drug dealer. Yeah.
More violent criminals serving out their full terms.
We can focus on the real criminals instead of people who got caught with a joint in their pocket.
It would end policing for profit, which is known as asset forfeiture, where a lot of innocent people's property ends up getting taken instead of that. So
we will have more justice, and you and your property will be protected under the law rather than subject to being confiscated under the law for no just reason.
The billions of dollars we spend on law enforcement to prosecute these criminals and to confiscate everything, those billions of dollars can be sent back to the states and back to the people.
We can cut government spending because we're spending a ton of money on the war on drugs. Some say it's over 100 billion. I don't know if that includes federal, state, and local combined, but it's a lot of money that can go back into the private sector, back into your pocketbook.
We can energize entrepreneurship by choosing the freedom from the oppressive regulatory body state, allowing small businesses to form all over the place.
So hemp farmers, marijuana dispensaries,
Hair
could be
braiders,
CVS.
coffin builders.
Okay, so
It goes on and on
okay,
and on.
you're talking about benefits of other proposals, not just the war on drugs, and that's fine. We want to be talking, we want to be putting out benefits all the time. Yeah. Joshua, did you have something?
Oh, instead of the meth factory blowing up next to your house, 3M can make the meth safely.
Safer production, safer distribution. Well, one of the biggest benefits of ending the war on drugs is the reduction in crime, because a very large portion of crime in this country is associated with the war on drugs. Get rid of the war, crime goes down, our neighborhoods are safe. We always want to put it in the positive too. So if crime goes down, then we're safer. Your children are safe. They're safer going to school, they're safer walking down the street, your loved ones are safer in their homes. Anybody else?
This will give the left a case of heebie-jeebies, but restore the sovereignty of the states by ending federal money and pressure on federal programs that the states should be originating or not doing at all.
So it cuts back the overbearing federal government and the bribery that goes on between federal government and state governments to coerce them into doing what the federal politicians want. More freedom, more autonomy. Okay, anything else? Yeah?
Get the left back with us by pointing out when you declare war, people arm themselves. If you don't declare war on your citizens, they don't feel the need to arm themselves to fight against the oppressor, the oppressive army fighting them.
Does he want to say that?
I love that.
He loves it. I don't know if I want to encourage people not to arm themselves.
I'm talking about effects, I'm not encouragement.
I mean, you could say it reduces the need for people to, you know, to protect themselves with arms. But of course, we want to keep the right to keep your arms. Yeah.
Yeah, also with firearms, it would put a dent in the black market of firearms. Whereas there's drugs, there's guns.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's going to be fewer guns in the hands of outlaws, criminals, people who are violent, people who are trying to defend their turf, people who don't have as much to lose and do some crazy things. Makes us safer. Ending the war on drugs makes us safer, yeah.
We're going to significantly decrease our state's budget by lowering the number of people we have to incarcerate every year. When you look at the annual cost of just incarcerating one person, you take out all those nonviolent offenders, I mean, we can reduce it by over 50% right there.
We can probably close some prisons, reduce our state budgets and our federal budgets, and return that money to the taxpayer. What I always recommend is when you're cutting spending, couple it with either cutting a tax or cutting the deficit. Because if you don't, and if you actually look, and I've been watching this for a long time, what will happen with that freed up money is what? They'll gobble it up on some other really bad big government program. So almost always when we're proposing to shrink government, we want to be taking that loot out of government and getting it back in the private sector, right? Yes, ma'am. Hi.
If you don't want your children to do drugs, you should make them legal. Any high school student will tell you it's much harder to get beer than pot because you need an ID to get beer.
Making drugs legal means that we will be able to actually monitor our children and prevent minors from doing drugs and doing drugs more dangerously. We will reduce that dramatically. And this is really true. I mean, we've seen this in...
It will still be illegal to sell drugs to children.
Right. Okay, we'll just take a couple more, then we're getting to a much harder one. Go ahead.
We will also be able to eliminate the breakup of the American family by incarcerating one member of a family for a minor, for a drug offense.
So, when we stop doing that, then what's the good way of putting that?
The good way of putting that is we keep families together.
Yeah. Kids will grow up with their mom and dad, home. Have a parent, home. Yeah.
By decreasing the size of the government, theoretically, we could improve the efficiency and the transparency of government. They don't have as many places to hide it. They're not so large.
That's a great point. You know, government's so big that injustices happen all the time. Waste happens all the time. you know, even if it's mentioned in the newspaper and doesn't get much legs, no one has the time to really bring it in line. We got to make government much smaller so that we have real justice. Does that say what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am, I think it does.
Okay. Now let's get to something harder, because actually the war on drugs is one of the easiest ones to talk about. The benefits we've been talking about have been well developed and published in a lot of places. Let's pick something harder, like cutting government spending. I ran several initiatives, as Lee mentioned, in Massachusetts that ended the income tax in the state, or cut the sales tax in half, and involved taking billions of dollars out of the state government. Now, how is the everyday voter better off with $9 billion less in a state budget?
Oh, ma'am, may I ask this, do you shop at Walmart?
Yes, I do.
Well, what's the Walmart approach? If it costs less, more people are empowered to buy more things. So while you do cut out half the sales tax, you might double the purchasing power. As such, there's no net loss and a potential for net gain.
Okay, but so for cutting the sales tax, which isn't the same thing as, it goes with cutting government spending. So you're talking about the specific benefit of cutting the sales tax.
In that example.
And that's fine, which is people have more purchasing power because they don't have to spend that money on the sales tax. Yeah.
The fact that the cut government spending for something like, I think I read a book probably about 10 years ago that the government was still subsidizing sheep farmers to make wool uniforms for the military, even though the military long since gone to polysynthetic materials. The fact is, by decreasing government spending, we're getting rid of programs that don't make sense. And we're also cutting back on pork spending and things like that.
So we're getting rid of a lot of bad spending that's just corrupting and creates the wrong incentives. Right? So if you're throwing money at government for things it shouldn't be doing, you're going to be attracting people who could be doing that in the private sector. You know, they may, in a lot of cases, they may be doing it because of the job security and the pensions and other perks of government, rather than because they really want to do that job well, because they're not going to be as scrutinized for doing it well in the private sector. That's a little bit of a hard sell. It's not real simple. Let's get back to just cutting spending. Hi, Frank. Sir.
Let's do it for the children. We have a lot of trouble at Cal. Our students are getting this enormous debt. Well, high government spending needs high interest rates. We cut spending, interest rates are going to go down. Our kids are not going to graduate from college.
Certainly, we are putting that debt on future generations. We're also putting it on ourselves, both in terms of that's an expense that keeps going up, but more immediately is government debt causes the value of the dollar to go down. And we have to keep this in very simple terms. We don't want to get into a big inflation economic discussion with voters. But when they print money, they're flooding the market with dollars. That makes every dollar worth less, and your effective income goes down, your retirement savings goes down, all your savings goes down, your ability to buy stuff. That's why when you go to the pumps, the price of gas keeps going up. That's why $100 that used to fill your trunk with groceries now buys 2 or 3 bags of groceries. That's government overspending. It causes our dollars to go down today, and it's going to keep getting worse. And we're pushing that burden onto future generations. So those are some of the benefits of cutting government spending. There's what really you want to do, whatever your key proposals are as a candidate, you want to brainstorm with your campaign team and anybody you can find every benefit you can think about and put it in terms that voters understand. A good rule of thumb is pretend you're talking to an intelligent 12-year-old. This isn't to insult voters. It's because voters are busy, they're not thinking about politics, and we're not thinking about whatever they're interested in. It's just not their gig. So we need to keep it very, very simple, okay, and understandable. So the ideal way to go into this game is to have your solutions well prepared and your benefits to those solutions well prepared. And we're going to try and play this game, though we're not particularly prepared to do it, okay? But we're going to play it anyway because what we're really trying to learn to do here is in conversations, in a media interview or debate, we need to take control. We need to be driving. Whoops. here's the illustration, okay? We need liberty to be driving, and that means we want our proposals to be the focal point of the conversation as close to 100% of the time as possible. And that includes talking about the benefits. What's in it for the voters? This is a part that we forget all the time because most of us are not trained salespersons. Trained salespersons do this naturally. They talk about the benefits of the new car that you're looking at, and will you save money in gas, and is the air conditioning keeping you cool, and that kind of thing. They do this naturally, but we don't. We're very good at saying what's wrong with government. What's wrong with government? It's this, it's bad, it does this, it has that bad outcome, and here's 10 more bad things that it does. And by the way, and here's another bad part of government, all the bad things it does. We have to get past that quickly. We do want to mention what's wrong with government. We do want to take a smack. We want to smack it. We want to remind people that it's harming people. But then we need to learn to translate that into, if you get rid of it, what good comes of it. Why you voters should now be motivated to go to the polls as a result, right? So, ending the war on drugs, yeah. But your kids will be safer. Oh, okay, that I care about, right? You got to put in their mind the things that they care about as everyday voters. So let's see, we've only got a couple people in here. Lee, I don't know if there's anybody else in here who's driving. Is there anybody else who? Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, hi. Okay, now I remember. All right, we might get you guys up here to do a demo or two if you're game. Are you? Well, not right now, not quite yet, but we'll get to that. All right. So let me just quickly go over what I recommend as a format when you're talking about your libertarian solution. We're selling liberty, which is the absence of government, right? So what we're selling is getting rid of something that's bad and doing damage, right? So it's kind of like a cancer commercial. Cancer is something bad, and what you're selling is getting rid of it. So if you think of a cancer research center, the commercial might begin with, the family has just learned of the diagnosis of the father, and it's grim. And sad music, sad faces. And then they start talking about the new cancer center. Uses state-of-the-art equipment, blah, blah, blah. Friendly, customized service for your cancer. I saw a big ad at the airport or somewhere today. Did you see it? I think it was at the Columbus airport where there's huge commercial of a cancer patient saying, there's an expert team that focuses on my cancer. Has anyone seen that ad? Knows what I'm talking about? Okay. And then towards the end, the music picks up, patient's been cured, walking out of the cancer center with their family going home, healthy, better. That's kind of the format we're doing here. We want to start with the war on drugs is causing high crime. The majority of crime in this country, and the majority of murders, I'm not certain if that's true, so don't quote me, are attributable to the war on drugs. Drive-by shootings, people breaking into homes who are addicted to drugs, who are trying to get money. A lot of crime is related to the war on drugs. We get rid of the war on drugs, our crime will drop. Our prison population will drop. The people who've never harmed anyone, who are nonviolent, will go home to their families. Kids won't have their careers ruined over a joint that they got caught with. They'll be able to get into college because they won't be denied their financial aid. They won't have jobs just written off for a whole lot of job opportunities because the record's clean. We got to get rid of this immoral and failed war on drugs. Life will be better, okay? So you start off with what's wrong. Now when you also do this, and especially those of you who know who your opponents are, is you want to contrast yourself with your opponents. What I recommend when you come up with your solutions is make sure they're bold, libertarian, they shrink government, they never increase it, and that they're much bolder than what either your Democrat or Republican opponents would do. Because you want to, instead, when you're marketing yourself, you want to have what's called a unique selling proposition. You want to have a reason why you stand out from the crowd, why someone should choose you over someone else. Especially where, as a third party, there is so much bias against voting libertarian. We got to give people big reasons to vote libertarian. like ending the income tax and giving back an average of $11,525 into every family budget in this country on average every year when we end the federal income tax. $11,525. Now there is no Democrat or Republican I've seen who's going to run on that. Maybe somewhere, but for federal office, they pretty much don't exist. Okay, there's starting to be some Tea Party Republicans that are starting to be somewhat kind of bold, but usually you can beat them out pretty easily because they're not really there to shrink government, most of them. Okay, so you want to pick your solutions that really distinguish you. So you want to start with, my opponent wants to keep the income tax. He wants you to pay $11,525 every year to give away to his political pals, waste it, go to war, continue with failed government programs or laws and regulations we don't need. I say no. I say end the federal income tax, give it back to you, put it back in your family budget. That's $11,525 every year in your family budget. Okay, so you want to identify what's wrong with the program, tie your opponents to it, state your solution and the benefits that it will provide. So you're creating a real clear choice between the Democrat, Republican, and you, the Libertarian. Does that make sense? Okay. So we'll get into playing the game here. We'll start with a demo soon. But what we do is we get two people in the front here, and one plays media interviewer and one plays libertarian candidate. And the libertarian candidate's job is to, and we time it, let's go for 3-minute segments, we'll keep them a little shorter, is to be putting their solutions and selling them, i.e. the benefits, as close to 100% of the time as possible. You want to go for 100%. If you're doing really, really well, you'll hit 80 or 90. Because you have to kind of, take a quick slap at big government, tie your opponents to it, and then move to your agenda. Remember what our opponents are doing. They're selling big government all day long. And we need to change that conversation. So we want to jump in and quickly get to our solutions. Now, when you're in an interview, the interviewer typically is prepared with questions they're going to ask, and they usually aren't ones that really help our cause. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they know what you're running on, and they'll actually invite you to talk about what you're running on. But a lot of times they've got something else going on. They want you to talk about how we're going to close the gap, the budget gap with the state budget. Oh my goodness, we have a shortfall, a gap, instead of what the hell are you spending so much money for in the first place? They will assume that it's normal to be $2 billion short in cash, and gosh, we got to do something about it, like raise taxes, don't we? They're always pushing for more government. We got to turn that conversation around and have it be about less government, and just flatly reject the idea that government should stay big or get bigger. So that means we have to redirect a lot, or come up with segues. Now, I'm going to hand out, if you all could pass these down, or if someone's willing to get up and move them along quicker, great, thank you. These are sample segues for how to change the subject, basically. And you want to do it as much as you possibly can. I'm not advocating that you be too aggressive or inappropriate, but you can grab the steering wheel, if you will, by using some of these lines that are in here. These are just examples. You may come up with a lot more. So, for example, if an interviewer says, how are we going to close the gap in the state budget? You say, well, obviously we're spending way too much and we need to cut government spending dramatically. We don't want to close the gap. We want a gap in the other direction. We need to be dramatically cutting spending and then figuring out which taxes we can get rid of to give that money back to the people. See how it turns it on its head? Changes the direction? Liberty driving, right? So those are segues. Now, let's see, let's just get all these handouts. we've got sample interview questions. If we could hand those out. So if you're playing interviewer, you can just use that. Some sample benefits. I think I have 20 copies, and there's a little bit more than 20 people here, so some of you will have to share. Here's some sample libertarian solutions if you don't have any prepared.
Next one.
All right. Now, one of these sheets I'm handing out is 10 criteria that make libertarian solutions both libertarian and sellable. We've talked about these. There's just a couple of points I want to make here that's very important. When I've played this game and when I've just observed libertarian campaigns, something I find very frequently is that libertarians will come up with complicated libertarian solutions. For example, we want to eliminate the county structure because that will consolidate these certain governments, and then the towns will have incentive to compete and lower their property taxes, and therefore property taxes will go down. We've had candidates running on exactly, well, as best as I could articulate it, something to that effect. And I've seen a lot of solutions like this. They're too complicated. They're too indirect. And you listen to it, you go, that's going to get me a tax cut. I don't know. It's too indirect and too complicated. Solutions need to be very simple because as candidates, we often have 10 seconds to make our case in a media soundbite, and that's it. So keep them simple. If you come up here and you propose something complicated, I'm going to suggest you pick something else. Because it's just very hard to sell. It's really hard to sell. It's a lot easier to pick something simple. Broad appeal is another criteria here. You want to pick solutions. Now this does limit us somewhat, but there's still many, many solutions, and you have a bunch of examples there. You want to pick solutions that benefit a large block of voters. Doesn't have to be a majority. Often it is a majority though. Ending the income tax, whether they want to agree with it or not, it's going to benefit them. And most people are going to see a benefit in that. So you want to pick things with broad appeal. One thing that is tough to sell is eminent domain. Okay? Libertarians were against the overuse of eminent domain, right? The Kelo decision. But how many voters, first of all, even know what eminent domain is? You know.
Well, in my state they do.
In certain locations, it's a hot issue. In certain locations where it's been in the news a lot, if you live in New Haven, Connecticut, or, you know, yes, there are cases where it might be appropriate. But most people don't even know what it is. And what's the chance of someone having their property taken by eminent domain?
Not very great.
Much less than 1%. So you're not coming, that's not an issue with broad appeal that has really compelling benefits for a lot of people. Doesn't mean we don't agree with that position, or we wouldn't vote for it, we might even propose it. But to run on it as a campaign issue is kind of weak in most jurisdictions. Make sense? Okay. So let's get a demo going. Who would like to participate in a demo here? All right.
Sure.
And your name?
Colin Ross.
Colin? Oh, you're Colin.
Hi, Carla.
Hi, how you doing? We've talked on the phone many times. Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure.
Okay. Colin, you're the campaign manager for?
Steve French. He's the Libertarian candidate for governor of South Carolina.
Yeah. All right. Great. All right. So I'm not sure how we're going to do the microphone here, Nigel, so just give us suggestions. I'll do the demo here with you and me, and we'll give you one of the interviewer sheets. If I could borrow back one of those. The sheet of interview questions, can someone hand us that, please?
Interview question.
Okay.
There you go.
So you're going to pretend to be the media.
Okay.
Actually, maybe you could sit here and just hand the microphone back and forth between you and me.
Sure.
Like you're a reporter.
Okay. Do I cross my
Yeah.
legs very professionally, or
whatever you want? Now,
is that media-esque?
I'm going to run on ending the state income tax as governor of Massachusetts candidate.
Okay.
So when you're talking, put the microphone
Sure.
up there and then shove it in my
And
face.
just start right from the top, but we'll start with who are you?
Jump around and pick anything you want. You don't necessarily want to follow this format. Just pretend you're an interviewer, you get a little closer, and use a microphone.
Sure. So Carla, first of all, I'd like to thank you for sitting down with me.
Thank you for having me on. I am so excited to tell everybody about the proposal to end the income tax. We have so many people who are just busting with excitement over this proposal because this is going to give back an average of $3,520 into the family budget of every family in Massachusetts. We are so excited. We're going to be on the ballot, and this is going to be a chance for the people in the state to vote to actually shrink government, get rid of the unnecessary wasteful bureaucracies that are doing no good, and put that money back in our family budget.
That sounds exciting. So what do you do for a living right now?
I'm campaigning full time to end the income tax in Massachusetts.
Okay, well, running as a libertarian is a little bit unusual. Why don't you run as a Republican or a Democrat?
Well, a lot of Republican voters love ending the income tax. A lot of the Republican politicians, and especially the ones who control the state party, they're against it. You know, Mitt Romney's against it. Charlie Baker's against it. They want to keep big government big. I'm a libertarian. I want to shrink government. I want to keep the good parts. You know, cops catching the bad guys and putting them in jail. People who murder and rape and steal and do awful things. But the state government's spending a lot more money than they're spending probably 10 times what they really need to be spending. We're only cutting it by 17%, which is a good start. So the Republicans, a lot of them are supporting our initiative. A lot of them are actively working on this campaign. They've helped us collect signatures, and they're going to be voting to end the income tax.
Now, all we hear about is budget shortfalls in government right now. So wouldn't cutting the income tax take out those revenues from the state coffers?
Absolutely, we're going to be shrinking state coffers, and we're going to be sending a big fat signal to Beacon Hill saying, time to cut. You tell all your cronies lined up for handouts, it's time to go home. We are now serving the people of Massachusetts, the small business people of Massachusetts, the people who create jobs in Massachusetts. That's what's going to happen when we end the income tax. We are going to have 32,000 new private sector jobs, according to a study by the Beacon Hill Institute. 32,000 new private sector jobs, desperately needed jobs, when we end the income tax in Massachusetts. Okay, enough demo. Get the idea? So, what we'll do after each round, and we'll time it. We forgot to time it that time, but we're going to ask, what percentage of the time were you driving? Now, what percentage of the time would you say I was driving? 70, 80, 100. It was up there. It was probably, I would say, between 80 and 90. And that's what you want to shoot for. Okay, now, it was, I'd say, a little awkward at times, but did you think it was passable in terms of being appropriate? It wasn't a Ronald Reagan where he completely ignored. Where did that one? Ronald Reagan was great for completely ignoring the question and answering on whatever topic he wanted. Remember that? It was just bizarre. And he got away with it. So you want to, be on this earth and acknowledge what's being asked of you, but seg extremely quickly to your agenda so that you are driving. Now, the next thing we do is we rate. So we score it 0 to 100 for how much you're driving. You want to get in the 80, 90, even up to 100 if possible. The other thing we rate is benefits on a scale of 0 to 20. 0 means you forgot to mention benefits at all. And I suspect there's a lot of candidates in this room who have never talked benefits because many candidates do not do this. They forget. No one ever even told them. They were never even suggested that this was necessary. A 20 score is a Harry Brown. It's a benefit, 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 benefit. So what I just did now was on the high end. It was probably, I'd call it 17, 18, 19, up there. The idea of benefits is you want them to be memorable. Feel free to repeat, repeat, repeat. Think about an infomercial. they repeat the key points, don't they? Savings, 20% off, 20% off, 20% off, savings, 20% off. You know, so that it gets hammered in your brain and you go home going, wow, 20% off. In case of war on drugs, wow, lower crime. In the case of ending the income tax, $3,225 back in our budget every year. Wow, $3,000. You want them to remember the benefits, okay? So the goal is to get as close to a 20 as you can in terms of really hammering home those benefits. So you have 2 jobs. Be driving and selling the benefits. Driving and selling the benefits. Now, because we're not prepared, it's going to be awkward. And I'm going to ask each of you to give each of the rest of you permission to screw up. Okay? You have to be prepared to do this right. You have to know your numbers. You have to know your government budgets if you're cutting taxes and cutting spending. You have to figure out how much money everybody's going to get back if you're cutting a tax. You need to be prepared, and we're not. It's kind of like, here's the lesson, pop quiz begins in 10 seconds. Okay? Unfortunately, that's what we're going to have to do here. So please give yourself and each other permission to misstate the facts. This is practice. This is not actual reality. In reality, you want to get your facts right, of course. But for this game, fake it till you make it, right? Okay. So I invite you to be brave, to really be driving, and to don't worry about the details, because I trust you will clean them up, or your campaign team members or fellow state party members will correct you where you might have your numbers wrong or something else, okay? So, who wants to be the brave first person to play the game who's driving today? Joshua Katz. Good for you, Joshua. Now, and I will promise you, I've seen people play this game. People get better the more they play it. So it's going to be really tough to do well your first time playing it. If you do well, it will be very extraordinary. So I don't have the cheat sheet, but I've done this enough that I don't think I need it. So we're going to start it. We need somebody with a smartphone with a timer who can time 3 minutes. You'll yell out when we hit the 3. Okay, just say go when we're ready. Go. So Joshua, you are running for?
I'm running for the Planning Commission in the town of Westbrook.
Very good. And why are you a libertarian?
Well, I'd rather focus on the issues that I'm running on in this campaign. I'm running for re-election. I have 2 opponents, both of whom were in office 7 years ago, when we spent $12 million as a direct handout to Walgreens. And we destroyed 2 locally owned businesses in the process. Now I ask you, what would you have done with your share of that $12 million?
I don't even know how to answer that question.
Okay, well, because it's so large, right? You had so many options. And how many businesses have we crowded out? How many local entrepreneurs did we crowd out by giving away money to big business? And it's still going on. And I'll tell you that for the last 6 years, I have blocked every proposal to do so that came across my desk. And my opponents have supported all of them.
Uh-huh. And are you running for office now for re-election? What are you going to do if you get elected again?
I will continue to block every proposal that's made to hand our money to big corporations and crowd out our locally owned businesses. I spoke yesterday to a woman who wanted to open a nail salon in our town, and she was blocked by various commissions who were paid off by locally established businesses, and they required her to have the same septic systems as a 50-technician salon down the street, because that salon requested that be done. That's a direct handout and a direct subsidy to a large business, which hurt one of our citizens.
Well, don't you think these rules were put in for a place? I mean, they protect us, they make sure that things are up to code, and they make sure that our septic systems, our sewage systems work. I mean, this is for the public good, isn't it?
That's a great point. But the septic requirements are certainly different for a 50-technician nail salon than a 1-technician nail salon, don't you agree? Or do you think they produce the same amount of waste?
Well, isn't this just a handout to the smaller ones, though? I mean, aren't bigger ones more efficient? We get economies of scale, and Isn't that better for the town? Don't they create more jobs if there's...
No, they don't create more jobs. They create more low-paying jobs as opposed to owning a local business. They create, for our citizens, a minimum wage job, while the majority of the money goes out of state and out of our town to the major corporation running that salon. Whereas a majority of a small, or if we had more locally owned small businesses, that money would be staying in our town, going to our residents. And again, we spent $12 million, as one example, direct spending to bring large business into our town.
Okay, let's give him a hand. What percentage of the time were you driving? Talking about your proposals to block. In this case, it's a little funny because he's not repealing a law, but so he's basically serving to stop bad things from happening. In effect, he's shrinking government.
65, 70?
What did you guys think?
70.
65?
Easily 70.
70? Other opinions?
Yeah, I would say about 80.
65.
You did real good.
Oh, thank you.
You spent a little time winding up, but you kind of had to. It was a little bit of a complicated situation. It is harder with local government because things do get more complicated with local government. Okay, and what about benefits? What percentage, on a scale of 0, you didn't mention benefits at all, to 20, you did a Harry Brown sales job. Where would you rate yourself, 0 to 20?
13.
13? What did you guys think?
It's a good number, I like it.
Yeah.
What were those benefits? What do you, let's hear what do you remember him saying was a benefit? Yell it out.
Opportunity to start
Local
businesses.
high-paying jobs.
Local high-paying jobs, ownership.
I felt like asking the question in the interview, what would you do with your share of that 12 million, may not be quite as effective as if this is the specific number. There's 1,000 people in this town, or whatever it is. Like, here, this is $500 back in your pocket. That's a trip to Jamaica.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was confused by it, frankly. Okay.
I forgot the
That was a
population.
great question.
Yeah.
That's a great way to state it. What would you do with your share of $12 million?
I think you just need to make it more clear that you're going to get it. How are you going to get it? Are you going to cut, how does that, where does this 12 million actually come from? That wasn't totally clear to me.
No, I took that the candidate definitely is against corporate welfare. He's looking out, for small business, but he's saying, hey, my opponents are for big business. They got their political buddies. Okay.
Yeah, but corporate welfare, being against corporate welfare per se, or ending corporate welfare per se, how's that a benefit?
How's that a benefit? Cutting big business, cutting,
That doesn't help you much if you work for that big business.
Well, you're right there, Carla. But what's the difference between corporate welfare and
See, this is
welfare, people welfare?
There isn't much difference, but we need to articulate how that makes things better for you. So let's think about it. How does it make things better for the everyday voter if we get rid of corporate welfare? Well, he said it stops blocking out the small guy, which is unfair. And small businesses are the primary creators of new jobs. So one of the key economic engines of the country is small business growth and small business expansion. And that's why corporate welfare is bad. It actually suppresses jobs. Okay? So you want to make that more clear. Yeah?
A good way to explain it, New Orleans, they had a case where a mom and pop sandwich shop, all they ever did all their lives work and pay their taxes and stuff, and then the government subsidized the Wendy's to open up across the street from them, puts mom and pop Hazel's out of business.
So the bad thing is them going out of business. That's the bad effect of government.
Their tax money to subsidize someone to,
So that again is the negative side. That's the bad result. The good result, when we stop doing that, is we have a surge in small business growth, small business employment, overall higher employment, because that is a primary source of new job creation, right? So you see how we have to translate this into what voters care about, because if they're not political thinking, I'm against corporate welfare, they're not going to care.
But that takes the dollars out of New Orleans. I mean, the dollars are going to Wendy's, wherever corporate is for Wendy's.
Well, there's also tax dollars going to corporate. So so then if you quit giving them tax subsidies, then what's the benefit of that?
You're not stealing the money in the first place.
That's right.
Well, but you got to translate it now. Okay, but they're already doing it, so how's it going to change it? Does this mean your taxes are going to go down?
It could, if you eliminate programs.
No, not unless you say so.
You have to say so.
You have to say so.
I'm sorry.
You're right. You're right.
Subsidies are fine, but what happens when they run out? When you bribe businesses to come to the state, that means you have to keep bribing, because they'll leave.
The voters of the state that bribe you.
Yeah.
Well, what if you just
It becomes dependency. So the benefit of ending corporate welfare is taxes go down, and you might want to state a specific tax that you're going to cut, like the property tax, the sales tax, the income tax. Those are the three broad-based taxes that people relate to the most: sales, income, property. And make that part of your proposal, and say, we're going to give that money back to you. We're going to quit handing it out to corporations. We're going to give it back to you. And this is also going to stop the suppression of business growth, which means we will have jobs. We really do have the jobs programs, folks. Our opponents are talking about creating jobs by spending more government money, taxing people more, and it does the opposite. We need to sell this point hard, because we are the real solution for creating jobs in this country. Yes, Diana.
I think another advantage that happens when you cut corporate welfare is it forces those corporations to be more efficient, which means that consumers are going to get a better deal. The corporations are not able to be as sloppy, as inefficient, so it makes for a much more better use of resources and lower prices for consumers.
Great point. I've seen this in corporate America. You give money to corporations, they waste it, and some of them actually fail as a result of it. They lose their competitive edge. We lose competitive market share to world markets when we're subsidizing corporations and making them fat and lazy. We need lean, mean, competitive, successful corporations in America, not government-dependent corporations that could disappear overnight. Is it quick? Hey there.
Sorry about that. I think it's important to frame our message in clear moral terms, to say, in this instance, for example, we believe in a level playing field, and to talk about how this will help the most disadvantaged members of society, that we're for the underdog. If we just tell people, oh, here's what's in it for you, it comes across kind of like a corporate message. Oh, buy our product, it's great, it's on sale today, whatever.
Star Child, I got your point. I need to move it ahead.
Everybody else, okay, well, don't.
But let me just try paraphrasing. Because I agree with you that you can appeal to people on a moral level. Because people do like fairness. And they do like mom and pop shops and the little guy. Now, we don't want to come across as saying we're making it like we're taking a side, because government shouldn't be deciding those things. Government should stay out of the way so people can decide those things, right? But yes, we can appeal, and I think we are appealing, and he was appealing to that. Don't you agree?
I wasn't criticizing his performance.
No, I know. But that's a good point. You can appeal to people's, moral values as part of a benefit. Because people want things, they say in sales, what's in it for me? And people care about, their bottom line and themselves. But there's also a big part of everybody that cares about human beings, the human condition. And we can appeal to that as well. So on a scale of 0 to 20, 0 being no benefits, 20 being gold standard, where would you put yourself?
What did I say before?
13.
Yeah, 13. I'll stick with 13.
Now, and let's try to be as honest. It's real easy to try to inflate the grades, if you will. But I would say it was somewhere in that ballpark, 10 to 13, maybe a little closer to 10. And anybody else have an opinion? We kind of do this by consensus.
Ballpark.
10. Okay, we're going to say 10, and we're going to say, what was the number before? We said 65, 80 in terms of how much he was driving. 70. Okay, we're going to go with 70 and 10, which is an outstanding score, especially for the first guy up. Let's give him a hand. What I'm pulling out of my bag of tricks here. Candy. Certified driver for Liberty. If you score an 80 plus and a 10 or more in benefits, you get one of these buttons. Now, technically, actually, you have to do it twice, but we don't nearly have time for everybody to play. So we're going to actually give it to people who've done it only once. Because normally we have smaller groups and everybody plays a couple times, and you see yourself get better. So you want to go back to your states and get together and play this game. It will help you get better. Hi. Give everybody your name again, please.
My name is Amy Love. I'm running for U.S. Congress, Alabama, District 6.
All right. Now, does somebody else want to be interviewer? Because I don't have to be the interviewer every time. Well, Star Child is offered. This is going to be interesting. Okay.
Certainly hope so.
All right. So what you want to do is let her talk a lot. Make sure the microphone sits down so that you want to get to close because.
Should I hand her the microphone?
You want to be like a reporter doing the. Now, one part of this game we didn't introduce is we use cards so we can be judging people and giving them visual feedback. When Amy is driving, hold up the Liberty card. Any other time, including just neutral, the government. You want to be seeing a sea of gold when you look out. All right? And when you see red, you're doing something wrong. Now, a lot of times people will hold up the wrong card. So I'm going to be coaching you all to hold up the right card. And I'll keep these. Yeah. So take one each, and let's get into it even though you won't have your cards for part of the game. Is timer, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go.
Start.
Hello everyone, I'm John Doe here with MSNBC, and we have Amy Love who's running for Congress from Alabama. So tell me, Ms. Love, what made you decide you want to run for office and represent people? Do you think you have a chance to win as a libertarian?
I absolutely do. My district is one of the most conservative in the country, but Alabamians really care much more about fiscal matters than social, and I believe that the libertarians have a real chance.
Now, looking at past vote totals, though, typically your party only gets to maybe a couple % of the vote. What makes you think you have a chance this time?
Well, in Alabama, typically we don't get to run because of ballot access issues. That's why we get such a low percentage, because we have no access, and therefore we have to run as write-ins. And write-in has never won.
Get your proposals out.
No, well, he's not asking me proposal questions. If elected, I promise to put forward legislation, sponsor a bill that will close some military bases that we have overseas. Currently, U.S. taxpayers are supporting over 1,000 acknowledged military bases in foreign countries. That costs the country, us, everyone in this room, an estimated $160 billion every year. That doesn't count the 200,000 servicemen and their families who are spending their paychecks in foreign countries. This also puts us on a stance of war. Right now we're building an $80 million base in Vincenza, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The locals don't want the base. We don't need the base. But we're doing it. We already have a base in Italy. It's important to realize people are worried about our national defense, but it's very important to realize that if we closed 80% of the bases that we have overseas tomorrow, we would still have more than one base per country in the world.
Well, that sounds a lot like Ron Paul's message, but you know, he ran for president in 2012, and Alabama voters didn't really take to that message of closing down all the overseas bases. What makes you think that voters are going to change their minds this time around?
I think that Americans have begun to realize that we need more diplomats and fewer soldiers. We need to learn how to avoid wars instead of focusing on winning them. Right now, the United States is...
Wait, excuse me just a moment. You say we don't want to win wars?
I think we need to avoid wars. The great thing about not being at war is that you don't have to have this adversarial stance. You're allowed to interact with other countries on an economic level.
So a kinder, gentler foreign policy.
Not necessarily kinder or gentle, I think.
Okay, time. All right. Very good. Now, by the way, when he's arguing against hers, she's still driving because she's got him fighting her. We want big government chasing after us. We're always chasing after them, right? It's okay if the interviewer is pushing back and putting out counter arguments because she was still driving during that time. Okay, so what percentage of the time did you see the gold cards in the air?
I wasn't actually paying attention.
What percentage? Throw out some numbers. What time?
Probably 80%.
80? The beginning, he took a little while.
I was trying to be polite and answer his questions, which was wrong, yeah.
The wind-up was a little slow. Yeah? 60. 60? I thought it was a little less than 80, I have to say. I thought it was more 70, 65, 70, somewhere in
A
there.
minute had passed when we first put up the Liberty line, so that's...
Yes. So 65, we'll say. Okay? Compromise. Now, benefits. What benefits do you guys remember hearing?
Peace. More cost. That's pretty abstract.
Less cost, more local spending.
Okay.
Individual benefits are very small. Pretty small.
Saving a UNESCO World Heritage Site, I was impressed that got brought in. I wasn't expecting that.
Lost some people with that,
Yeah,
particularly if their people are really focused on defense, or safety, security. All right.
Well, having
Closing the
200,000
base-
soldiers in America instead of in foreign countries
Now let's
makes us safer.
Let's brainstorm for a second. What are some things that are benefits you could have said?
Something that she really, I'm sorry, I didn't
Just throw them out.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Something you could have focused on instead is that I'm assuming Alabama, like a lot of states in the South, have a very high percentage of people that join the military. The fact is that if you're closing those bases, people's children are not going to be overseas and having a higher casualty rate. And it's also going to decrease the likelihood of things like PTSD and disabilities as well. That's a really big thing to hit home at with that kind of demographic, especially in the South.
Yes.
And with the veterans benefits and all that going on right now.
So veterans benefits.
Yeah, they're also getting COLA. COLA is, I was a military wife. You get paid twice as much when you're stationed in Germany.
Okay. So if I may grab this, just so the video can pick it up. So some of the benefits we're talking about is being reunited with your families, bringing troops home, cutting costs of benefits to veterans, which reduces taxes, and we might even want to throw in there what actual taxes we can cut as a result, like cut the federal income tax. Peace, less chance of terrorism, fewer adversaries in the world, and dramatically cutting federal spending. You can talk about your closing bases, you can talk about cutting hundreds of billions of dollars from the federal budget. That translates into a 4-digit number in tax relief for the average family. It's very significant. Okay, so on a scale of 0 to 20, what would you give yourself for benefits?
10.
What would you guys give her?
5.
5?
5 to 8.
8. I would definitely say it was under 10 because I think there's more opportunity, but you are also making a clear effort in getting some out there. So why don't we say 7?
Okay.
Okay? Very nice. Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right. Who's next? Who's next? Come on up. You're going to be interviewee?
Yeah, I'll be interviewed.
Who wants to be interviewer? There's some. All right. You have the sheet there? Yeah. Okay. Let's jump right into it so we can give as many people a chance as possible. This is about the time when people start to realize how hard it is, right? You're sitting there going, oh, am I prepared? And what are my benefits? And what's my solution? This is good because this is a preparation you want to be doing before you get out in public. All right, timer.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
My name's Warren Taylor.
Warren Taylor?
I'm David Patterson's press secretary for the United States Senate in Kentucky.
Okay.
Go.
Hi, we're talking today about running for office in Kentucky.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, your name was?
My name is Warren Taylor. I represent the David Patterson campaign for the United States Senate.
Okay, and what party is he running for?
He is actually already secured the Libertarian candidate's nomination.
Why isn't he running as a Democrat or a Republican? Why a Libertarian?
Well, the very interesting thing about that is that our candidate for a very long time was a registered Republican, if I'm thinking. Well, the thing is, oh boy, where's that stall? Okay, I'm sorry about that. It was a long night.
What's your candidate's major issue?
Well, we're actually running, one of the biggest issues we're running on right now is to end the prohibition of drugs in the state of Kentucky. The reason why we are doing this is that in this state, when you look at it, there's a very high rate of incarceration, especially for petty crimes like marijuana growing or even just having it on you per se. The fact is that David's worked as a police officer for quite a good number of years, and he's seen how not only this has negatively affected families, but it's also negatively affected law enforcement because they have not had the resources or time to actually pursue those whose crimes are greatly damaging society as a whole.
If we allow drugs on the street willy-nilly, who will protect the children?
The fact is that it's not going to be just willy-nilly on the streets, you know. The fact is, when you look at other states like Colorado or Washington, they have actually put in place certain levels of intoxication to where if you blow over something like, it's like a breathalyzer test. If you blow over that, then you will be sent to jail.
But isn't that more dangerous? You're allowing more dangerous substances onto the street that people can just pick up like alcohol?
Well, to be honest with you, we're not starting off with every drug. I probably should have clarified that earlier. We're talking about marijuana right now in particular.
Isn't that just a gateway drug to heroin?
To be honest with you, I don't really want to focus on the definition of what or what is not a gateway drug. I'm here to talk about the benefits of how getting rid of marijuana can help Kentucky families. It will not break up people. You know, little Timmy will have his dad to come to his Little League games. You know, we won't be wasting as much money by having these people incarcerated. I mean, look at our state budget right now. We spend so much on incarceration anyways. I mean, our state, we already have a poor state anyways. I mean, what's the point? I mean, people are being disqualified from getting jobs because of this. I mean, this isn't even just a moral issue. This is also an economic issue.
So what? Okay.
Okay. Now, one thing, remind me, when you come up here, let's make sure that whoever's interviewing has chair facing out so you can be getting the feedback of seeing the cards going up and down. So I don't know if you noticed the cards. What percentage of the time did you feel you were driving?
I would probably say 65%. I think early on I was letting her dictate it and I got distracted and hesitated. So I would have gotten killed because of that, the public side.
Does 65 sound about right to you?
50.
Yeah. 50. Now, she did help you by getting you back, and interviewers won't necessarily do that.
No, they won't.
So the way the interviewer behaves can dramatically affect your score. Yeah. But if you're really on top of the game, you can handle just about anybody, and that's what you want to do, is practice this game enough that you can handle a really tough interviewer who wants to get you off message. Okay, so we'll say 65. Now, benefits. What benefits do you all remember him saying?
Keep families together, save money.
Save money, keep families together, focus on real crimes.
You could regulate like alcohol.
How's that a benefit? That's a feature, not a benefit.
Yes, I did say so.
Yeah, you mentioned
Prisons.
Yep.
Now, on a scale of 0 to 20, 0 being no benefits, 20 being you really hammered him home, hit him out of the park, where would you give yourself?
I'd give it an 8.
8? What would you all say?
Yeah, 6 or 8, 7.
6, 7? I would go with 6, just because they were a little muddled, and obviously you practice this more, you'll get better at it, okay? But it was a little hard that we had to kind of pick them out. And, you know, it's not some, you don't want to have to work. You want to give people benefits in a way that they don't have to work to remember them. They're like,
I kind of sounded like I was pulling from my nuts. Like I wasn't very prepared for the interview. That's something
that's right. And that's okay, because we're just practicing here. So thank you very much. Very nice. Very nice interview. All right, we got our next interviewee. Who would like to be the interviewer? Come on up here. First one to stand up and jump up. Come on, you're candidates. You want to get out there, yeah. You want to evangelize freedom. Okay, so let's make sure, let's have you a little bit this way so she can be facing out more. And I'll come to the other side. Is our timer ready?
Yes. Go!
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the interview this morning. Would you please tell our listeners who you are and why and what you're running for?
My name is Donna Dunn, and I'm running for U.S. Congress in District 1 in Northwest Indiana.
What prompted you, Donna, to decide to run for Congress?
Part of the problem is we have too big of a government. We need to decrease the size of our government, and one of the ways I want to do that is by concentrating on veterans' benefits. I am a Marine Corps veteran, and I firmly believe that the way we treat our veterans is despicable, and we can do better. If we privatize the VA, one of the things we can do is get rid of the government bureaucracy. Our troops will be better served. If we give our veterans a vet med card, that card can be used to go to the private sector and get treated when they need it and where they need it. They will no longer be required to drive 100 miles just to go see a doctor. And by doing that, we can cut at least $100 million out of our defense budget.
Why do you think that getting care in the community would be better than at the excellent VA system?
I wouldn't characterize our VA system as excellent, as having to use the VA system before myself. But the private sector does it better, and they also do it cheaper by competition. Our government does not have any competition. They can charge what they want. By contrast, they don't pay doctors and nurses very well because they would rather use that money on the bureaucracy as opposed to putting it where it belongs. And that money belongs with our veterans.
Moving on to another subject, you said you're a Marine Corps veteran.
Yes.
Did you serve overseas, and can you tell us how your experience has led to your decision to run for Congress?
I did not serve in either Gulf War. I got out about 2 weeks before the first Gulf War, or well, I don't even know if I would call it a first one, the continuing Gulf War. But what I believe, and you know, people have asked me before, you're a Marine, why aren't you for going to combat? The only people who want to go to combat are the people that have never been there before. We need to, if we have a more firm foreign policy, if we trade with other countries, they won't want to fight with us. We need to bring our veterans home. If we bring not our veterans, but we need to bring our active duty members home. Get them out of foreign countries. Excuse me. By bringing them home, they will be able better to protect our country and our liberties here in our country. Imagine, if you will, the 100,000 soldiers, airmen, Marines, and Navy personnel that we have serving in other countries. If they were serving in our country, protecting our liberties, we wouldn't have most of the problems that we have now.
You mentioned that only...
All right, very interesting.
I had a great question.
Before you go back. Okay, very good, very interesting. Now, what percentage of the time were you driving?
I would say about 65.
What do you guys think?
75.
I go to that, 80. I would say 60.
I'm honestly 40, 55.
40, 55.
That initial part, you were doing it, but then the Gulf War question, you kind of were in the ditch.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'd say around, let's go with 70, somewhere in the middle there. It was pretty good. It was pretty good, but it did get off a little bit. There was opportunity to be driving more. Benefits. What benefits do you guys remember?
Better care for veterans and lower cost.
Cheaper.
Better support from medical staff.
Protecting our homeland, having our troops home.
The second part of the interview, I remember that she talked about instead of fighting wars, would be trade more with other countries. I think it's a very good benefit.
Okay, free trade. So 0 to 20, what would you give yourself in benefits?
Maybe an 8 or 9.
8 or 9, what would you guys say? 14, 13. You know, I thought when you put them out nice and clear, weren't they? They shined when you were talking benefits. They really shined. So I would give it over 10.
Oh,
should we say 12, something like that? So, didn't quite make the certified, but you practice it 1 or 2 more times.
Okay.
You clearly have a grip on what this game's about. Did very well. Thank you both.
Thank you.
I like this pattern.
Okay. Good idea, actually. Who'd like to be the interviewer? Okay.
So what's your name? What do you want to talk about?
The ready timer. He's going to jump in.
Okay, start.
Hi, I'm Nick, and this is The Big Lie. I'm here with...
My name is Dr. Doug Butzer.
All right, Doc, what's the prognosis? What do you care about?
Well, obviously I care about healthcare, and I care about this country. I care about the economy. I decided to run for United States Senate from Iowa because of what has become known as Obamacare. It's going to be an abomination not only for the economy but for healthcare. We need to give big government out of healthcare. Let healthcare be decided between physicians and patients and families, and let it all be a local decision. If you want to have a bureaucrat in Washington deciding your health care for you, then you should be in favor of Obamacare. If you want you and your physician to make decisions about your health care, then you should be against Obamacare. If you want to know what government health care looks like, look at the VA system. If one way to improve healthcare for veterans in this country is to privatize the Veterans Administration. If we close the Veterans Administration hospitals, there would be a benefit for not only the veterans, because they would get the standard of care in their community, because they get the care in their community. There would be a benefit for taxpayers, because it would cost less for us to be able to care for the veterans in a better way in their community. It would be better for the families because they wouldn't have to travel to the Veterans Hospital, which may be 10 miles away, maybe 110 miles away, might be 1,000 miles away. And it would be better for the local hospitals. They would all the local hospitals would have at least a slight increase in volume. That'd just be better all the way around. There would be no downside to closing the Veterans Administration Hospital.
Where'd you go to college and do your residency at?
I went to, started college at the University of Montana, did the majority of my work at the University of Iowa, did medical school at the University of Iowa, residency at the University of Arizona, and business school at the University of Iowa.
So all these are state land grant schools, and you're talking about limiting the federal government and limiting the potential use of federal funds. I'm not sure where you're coming from.
Well, you raised a good question about federal involvement in higher education. I believe is probably the next economic bubble that's going to occur in this country. If we get federal government out of subsidizing higher education, then we would not see the cost of higher education increasing at a higher rate than the general inflation rate.
That's a very good point, and with not controlling your own money. However, every person spends money.
All right, very good. What percentage of the time did you see the Liberty flag flying?
I don't know.
So you had at least a solid half.
At least half.
Yeah, especially that first question.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of the time did you guys see? Yell it out.
50, 80.
50, 80, 70. 65? I'd say it was 65, 70. It was pretty solid. Might have been more. How many think it was 80 or higher? Not quite, so it was close. All right, how about benefits? 0 to 20, what would you say? What would you give yourself?
I tried to use the word benefits quite a bit there as a clue to you all to vote for me, but I don't know. But,
now, here's the real question. What benefits do you remember hearing?
Decision made between your doctor and you. Yeah.
Decision between not having to travel?
Right.
Closer, community-based health care?
Better care for veterans.
Better care for veterans.
Saving money.
saving money. Now, when you went out into the education bubble, the benefit wasn't as clear there. You're talking about getting the government out of education. I was a little unclear what the benefit was that you were stating there. But you very clearly laid out benefits with regard to privatizing the VA. It's nice to hear two people get on that issue. I think it's a great issue this year. So, what would you all say? 0 to 20 on benefits?
12.
I thought it was well over 10. 12 at least. I thought it was actually maybe even 13, 14 personally. Because you were hitting on them hard. You were clearly making a point of putting out those benefits. So I thought that was good. All right, very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I like that whole system. You pay your dues, and now you're here.
Okay. Who would like to be the interviewer? Okay. Joshua, why don't you come on?
I never got the first suit.
Yeah, revenge. Okay, timer.
What officer? Ready? I am the campaign manager for David Patterson for Kentucky Senate.
I'll just run for Senate.
Oh, okay, I'm running for Senate.
Hello, folks. My guest tonight is the Libertarian Party's candidate for Senate. So tell me, Libertarians are basically Rand Paul. So are you going to segregate our soda fountains again?
Well, I tell you what. My name is Nick Hamilton. I'm running for Senate for Kentucky, and my goal is to open the market. Why do we need to open the market? Everyone is an American. Everyone has a place at the table, and that's what the open market brings. Everyone comes in, everyone can talk, everyone can spend their money without the interference of big government. If you put limitations to the entrance of the market, you can't spend money, you can't make money, you can't have political or any kind of power within the system.
Well, aren't you just going to empower big corporations this way? You're talking about the power of money, but the corporations have a lot more money than you or I.
In a true open system, everyone has the same amount of power. Everyone has the same amount of dollars. It's the power of the people, the community. If you take a corporation that has $1 million or 1 million citizens with $1, that's equivocal power. It's all about building. This is the power of unions when it comes to mining towns, when it comes to dealing with Massey and big coal giants.
But you're a libertarian. Aren't you in favor of right-to-work laws?
I'm very in favor of right-to-work laws. However, the current state of affairs, there is oppression of the working class from the corporate class. The corporate welfare enables them to oppress current workers. Unions, as an example, is a beneficial service to give workers a booming voice. It's that million of one is the same thing as one of a million.
But again, you're a libertarian. You're not going to protect workers at all. You're going to empower the corporations. You're talking about workers being oppressed, but you want to reduce the regulations on our corporations and the way they treat their workers.
Workers have the freedom to walk away. If a corporation is going to treat their workers better, then they can go attempt to work for other corporations. The unions can fight the corporations. This is about self-efficacy. This is about your own determination, your own destiny. This is not about sucking at the tit of government or big business.
Well, what do you mean by sucking at the tit? As
a libertarian, I'm all for the freedom of government regulations and sexual acts. That's what I'm saying. But in all honesty, we have to take our own power back. We have to be strong in our government and the ability to take it. They should be afraid of us, not afraid of them. Fucking MC.
But what I'm afraid of is poverty. And I know you want to cut back on welfare programs. I know you
well, when it comes to corporate will help.
Okay. Very interesting. Let's just remind ourselves this is practice. Okay. So, driving. This one was a really hard one for me to say whether you were driving, because when you said open markets, what is open markets? Well, I think you probably meant removing government regulations that hinder businesses, but I don't think most voters would know what you were talking about. Now that's just a matter of practice. You were clearly intending to drive, but in reality it would have been tough to say you were driving because it was just unclear.
The whole arguments
But-
were ready for it to support David Patterson, him getting actually on the ballot. I had those arguments ready. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm senator now.
Right,
You know the issues, you just need the transition phrase right
Okay.
there.
Yeah, so that's a matter of just languaging, but you were intending for it to be about deregulating the marketplace. Okay. You would still want to get more specific. What does that actually mean? Do you want to get rid of OSHA? Do you want to just reduce the 50,000 regulations to 5? Or, you know, make it a little more tangible. Again, you just didn't have time to prepare this. But okay, so let's assume, though it was unclear, that he was intending to drive. He just didn't have the time to prepare it. Okay, so based on that, what percentage of the time would you say Liberty was driving when he was up here?
90.
90? 70?
70. Liberty was driving, but it sounded a bit too populist, to be honest.
Yeah, it definitely needs some work, because some of the things at one point you said making government strong, and so we definitely need to work on the language.
Yeah, it was backwards.
But I know that's not what you meant.
Right.
So okay, so you're getting because the rest of the stuff we can correct much more easily. We can correct that. And especially when you do it in front of a group of people, you're going to have incentive, especially if you're going to run for U.S. Senate or get up there and speak for your candidate, you're going to do a little preparation, right? So what we're exercising here is our muscle for driving, and you did a good job there. Okay, so we're going to say 70. Now what about benefits? What benefits did you hear him say?
I didn't hear any of it.
That's the part.
I heard something, I think, along the lines of competition or, you know, access
Equal
to the
voice,
marketplace. But again, I think it's a matter of practice. So benefits, anybody here a benefit? Did you remember saying a benefit?
Well, I was there. Oh, hold on, how do I say it? Open market empowers individuals to compete with corporations.
Yeah.
You can suck on whatever tit you want.
Yeah, that too. That's a libertarian way. I'm going to suck on hers and his and that one in the middle.
Now,
I'll take my 2 and I'll go take a seat.
okay. So, all right. Thanks. Remember, a benefit is not a benefit to you; it's a benefit to the voters. Okay. I had some guy in a game once talk about cameras, hidden cameras, and how he didn't like them because he got caught with his mistress and this, you know, and it violated his privacy. Well, not a benefit to many voters, right? But a benefit only to him. Okay, we have got still 25 minutes, which means we can probably play 5 or 6 more rounds. Who still wants to play? 1, 2. Okay, well, let's get this lady in the back here. Her hand went up first. If you would, you want to do it?
Yeah, I thought I heard
Oh, I didn't see you guys. All right, go ahead, you're here. Let's do, we got time. We'll do you and then this gentleman here. Okay. You're going to be interviewing? Yeah, all right.
I know the district. You're in trouble.
Go! Hi, I'm interviewing Laura Pate, who's running for Senate, State Senate, District 20 here in Alabama. Laura, your opponent has been sitting his seat for 20 years. The voters obviously love him. He's run unopposed for a very long time. Why do you think people are going to want to vote for you, a libertarian not even backed by an officially recognized party in our state?
Hi, Amy. Well, one thing that I would really like to do, I'm really concerned with poverty in Birmingham, and I would like to untax groceries and untax prescription and non-prescription medications as well, because I think that we obviously have an aging society, and we need to take care of our elders and make sure that they have enough money on their fixed incomes to be able to afford things.
How are you going to pay for that? That sounds very expensive. Alabama gets over $200,000 just in the Birmingham area from that grocery tax. That helps pay for our schools, and our schools are in real trouble in Birmingham. We're bankrupt.
Well, actually, I would like to co-sponsor legislation with Lee Lachine, who is also a libertarian candidate in Alabama as well. and we would like to abolish the lieutenant governor's position. And right now, Ms. Kay makes, or their budget for the lieutenant governor is $970,000. And so if we could abolish her budget and take that out, that would be plenty of money for our citizens.
But the lieutenant governor's office is an important elected official in Alabama. We abolished that office once before and brought it back. Don't you think they brought it back for a reason? Don't you think Ms. Kay does her job? Do you have a problem with Ms. Kay? Have you met Ms. Kay?
I have not, but I have lived in Alabama for a very long time, and I have not ever heard her name brought up in the news. She has not done anything. The only thing that she does is she is the president of the Senate, as well as if the governor, if something were to happen to Mr. Bentley, she would take over his position.
So who's going to preside over the Senate? Who's going to be the president of the Senate?
I'm sure.
Are you going to alter the Alabama Constitution?
I would like to, yes. that is the goal. I would like to make some positive differences, especially to benefit our citizens in Alabama, since poverty is such a huge issue.
Now, Ms. Kay is an elected official by the Republicans of Alabama. We're a very Republican state. Do you believe that the Republicans who will be serving with you in the Senate will support this legislation?
I would hope so, because that's saving Alabama money. That helps our citizens be able to afford healthier food by untaxing groceries. I mean, can you? Thank you.
All right. Very good. Okay. So, what percentage of the time did you see the Liberty cards?
Quite a lot.
I wasn't even paying attention.
Yeah. Throw out some numbers. What did you say? 80, 70, 80?
I've trained you well.
Okay. Did she hit 80? No. Parts of it were hard. It's a little hard to say. A little bit hard to say. I was a little stumped myself. It was close to 80. I'm not sure. What do you think?
I would say yes. 80.
I
would like a pin.
He wants a pin. Now, benefits. What benefits do you guys remember hearing?
Saving
grocery tax.
Alabama's one of the few states that fully taxes groceries, and people hate it.
Okay.
Better food.
Better food. Okay. Anything else? So on a scale of 0 to 20, what would you give yourself for putting benefits out there?
15? I would say 12 or 13.
What would you guys say?
15.
15.
I'm not hearing anyone say under 10. One thing I will note, when you talk about eliminating a position and it's $970,000 out of a state budget of billions, it's a drop in the bucket. Yes, people kind of like the idea of saving money, so you can kind of sell it. But this is what our opponents do. They make a big deal out of it. Whenever they're talking about cutting government, they're talking about 5-digit numbers. When they're talking about spending money, they're talking about 8-digit numbers, right? So it's, I don't like to make too much of a case out of saving $970,000. Just an aside, okay? But any other thoughts on benefits? On the score, okay. Yeah. Well, I think go ahead, Star Child, yes.
I just have to ask, is that really what the Lieutenant Governor now only $970,000?
Oh, it's the budget.
It's the budget for his office.
That's the budget. That's her rent, her secretary.
Yeah, and overhead.
That's a totally legitimate target, and I think that's a great kind of thing to go after, like specific things that relate to, the fat cats in government. Government greed is a powerful message. It's populist and resonates with people. It's something they can latch on to maybe easier than something really abstract. Like this person's making this amount of money.
We've never had a governor.
It is. The only thing is our opponents do this all the time. They latch onto these relatively small amounts of money and get people all lathered up about it while they go off and vote for another $10 billion or $2 trillion, and we really want to change.
$1,000 a year, it's small by relative comparison, but some people.
What's even more powerful is if you can show that it's a pattern. It's not just one case, because they'll admit, oh yeah, there's cases now and then. Is that there's a pattern in government of waste of this office, there's $1 million there, $500,000 there, $5 million there, and there's 1,000 of these cases. It adds up to $10 billion.
I think that's a good point. Maybe build on that 900,000 and find some other things that you could, you know, build on and make that number even bigger.
All right, great.
Some other wasteful areas.
So now, what you want to do, and are you actually running for office?
Yes.
You're running for?
Alabama State Senate.
State Senate. So what you really want to do is develop these things, okay, so that you can come out with powerful benefits. Because I wouldn't give you even more than a 10 in terms of if it was a public interview. But again, because we didn't give you time to practice, but you're running this year, so it's time for everybody to get your homework done, get your benefits down, and really be ready to go out there hitting strongly. So, should we give her the pen? What do you say? Yeah! All right. Nice job.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Who's next? Okay, this lady in the back. And sir, would you like to interview her, and then you can just hop right over?
Are we ready?
Yes, go.
This is Harold Thomas from Faux News, and I am interviewing
Amanda Swafford, United States Senate for the state of Georgia.
All right, Amanda, why are you running for office this year?
Well, I'm running for the United States Senate mainly because I believe in the power and responsibility of the individual instead of the power and responsibility of the federal government.
Well, yes, but don't you think the federal government protects the rights of individuals? Don't you think that they have police powers to keep us from being invaded by terrorists?
Well, I certainly believe that the individuals have the power and responsibility to do the things that they need to do. And one of the chief hallmarks of my campaign is going to be repealing the federal income tax. And in particular, I'm a strong advocate of the fair tax.
The fair tax, but don't we need that income tax money to run the federal government?
Well, I certainly understand your question, but one of the benefits of the fair tax is it really makes the tax system very transparent and lets us understand exactly how much revenue the federal government is involved in spending in our infrastructure and our money that we're spending today in the federal government system.
Well, that's fine, but there are a lot of necessary services in federal government. We need the protection from terrorism. We need the regulation of commerce to keep everything fair across the country. Don't you agree?
Well, that's an interesting assumption you make from a big government standpoint, I have to actually say. But the reality of it is that if we look at the fair tax, it gives the individual a lot of benefit and a lot of power to take the understanding of how they're actually going to benefit in them by taking taxation and choosing for themselves how they're going to participate in the tax system. They are going to be involved in making decisions in their family budget for how they're going to be spending their own money instead of letting Congress be responsible for socially engineering how they're going to be pushing their own objectives.
All right, but we have a $20 trillion deficit. Isn't the fair tax going to increase that?
Well, one of the great things about the fair tax is because it is such a transparent system, it really brings home exactly how much the federal government is spending. And so in that, you're going to be coupling that with reduced spending. And I am going to be taking a pledge. That's one of the first things I'm going to be doing is to cut spending down to at least 1998 levels, if not going down to 1992 levels. I certainly am a huge proponent of reducing spending. We've got to be able to have the individuals understand that if we get rid of the income tax and reduce our spending to such lower levels, you know, that's a lot of money. I've heard some figures say that that's $11,000 they can put back in their pockets.
Very good.
This is real interesting. And we could get into debate about the fair tax. And our presidential nominee, of course, supported the fair tax, and a number of our candidates do, and a number of our candidates also are proposing ending the income tax without replacing it with anything, just cutting spending to the year 1998 or 92, depending on whether you include corporate tax with that. I will just say that because I think this is something important to put on. And I will tell you flat out that I do recommend that it is a stronger sell, a much easier sell to simply say you're going to end the income tax and replace it with nothing. Because, first of all, the fair tax, you have a real liability there. This doesn't have to do with the game. Okay, you were clearly driving a lot of the time. You were clearing your proposal and you were doing a great job. But the fact of the matter is that you can, as happened to Governor Gary Johnson, you can have somebody from the audience say, well, what about the 23 or 27 or 30% sales tax people are going to now have to start paying? And you're introducing a new tax. It is my recommendation, we have many things we can run on, and it is never necessary to add putting something back in, increasing government power in any way. It really isn't necessary. And it's actually much easier to sell simply ending the income tax because, first of all, you don't have to deal with hitting people with a new sales tax. And as somebody who ran a ballot initiative in Massachusetts, we were winning in the polls until the teachers union spent millions of dollars and forced our numbers down. We would have won that in Massachusetts. People are very incentivized by, if you look at in a newspaper and you see coupons, 5% off, 10% off, you tell them, you're not going to have to pay 3% or 6% sales tax anymore. People loved it. You try to tell them, oh, and my proposal includes a 20x% new sales tax. Yikes. Very hard to sell. Very hard to sell. And it is, the fair tax that's been proposed by Neil Boards and others is revenue neutral. So there actually is no spending decreases and no benefits from spending decreases. The only actual benefit is in the fact that we don't have to file taxes and that they aren't snooping into our personal finances, and that does reduce a significant amount, some would say about $300 billion in compliance costs and costs of running the IRS. On the other hand, you're still going to have compliance costs with the sales tax. And the retailers, especially in states where they don't now pay a sales tax, who suddenly have to start collecting them, ain't going to like it. It's going to be very oppressive from their point of view. So just some points to keep in mind, just from the perspective of selling, okay, that you lose an opportunity to really hammer home benefits and you do have a big liability with the sales tax. Someone there?
No,
yeah.
Can we go back to the critique now?
Okay, yeah, all right, so now, that aside, you were driving, you put your proposal out there pretty quick. There's a little bit of a wind-up there before you got going, because he got you distracted with, what you're doing in your race.
That was tough.
Yeah, he was out to. So what percentage would you all give? Let's start with yourself. What percentage would you give yourself?
100%, absolutely, all the time.
Okay, let's get some other opinions. What percent of the time would you say that Amanda was driving? 60?
70.
70, 60, 70. I think it was in that ballpark. We'll go with 60. No, I'd say let's go with 65 because I think she actually. Now keep in mind, when he's rebutting her, she's still driving. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we'll say 65. Now in terms of benefits, what benefits did you hear her say? Transparency. Yeah.
Save money.
Save money. Anything else? What benefits do you remember putting out there that they're not remembering right now?
I know some that I missed. But, and let me say too that really my purpose in the whole this is learn a lot more about driving the interview, because that's been a huge problem in my media so far, is driving it. And that's been so beneficial, just the hour and a half we've had so far, is learning how to drive it a lot better. So that, the benefit stuff, and I can definitely work on that, but learning how to drive it has just been huge so far. So that's paramount.
Okay, great. So benefits, throw out some numbers.
6.
6. We'll go with 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much. An interviewer volunteer. Anybody? Sir. You all getting some benefit from this? All right. Very good.
Ready? Go.
Welcome to KNX News, and here we've got a Libertarian candidate to running for office, and would you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Kevin Knedler, and I'm running for Ohio Secretary of State.
Well, Ken, it's good for you to be with us today, and what thinks you're qualified to run for Secretary of State in Ohio there?
I have a lot of experience dealing with Ohio elections law. As you may know, the Ohio Libertarian Party has battled ballot access for quite a long time. But the thing is that we're going to change that as Secretary of State. We're going to make elections fair in this state by letting voters have a choice of candidates, a choice of issues, and have a choice in the way that they can vote.
Yeah, Ken, now you're a libertarian, right? Aren't libertarians kind of anarchists? So why do you want to run for office, or you don't really believe in government to begin with?
We believe in government, but limited government. And that means putting as much power as possible in the hands of the people, not in the hands of bureaucrats like our Secretary of State, or in the hands of the Republican legislature that's trying to limit the choices that voters have.
No, giving the rights to people, isn't that kind of like mob rule? I mean, where everybody wants to do their own thing? Isn't that kind of like anarchy?
We believe in the rule of law, and we also believe that law needs to be fair. So one of the proposals that I'm offering is to have the press for a change in the state law that reduces the ballot access requirements for small parties in the state of Ohio, which aren't, or small actually, because they have been fighting all these legal battles. They've been tying up the justice system. It's been very expensive, not only for the parties, but for the taxpayers. We want to put an end to this, go back to the system that we had between 2006 and 2012. We had 6 functioning political parties in this state, and I don't think anybody accused us of anarchy.
Well, okay, Ken, the Secretary of State really doesn't make laws. They just kind of enforce them. What makes you think you can change any of the existing laws?
The Secretary of State has professional knowledge that he can use to help influence the legislature in favor of changing the ballot access laws. In addition, we want to make sure that we have a stem to stern review of the Secretary of State's office, make sure that independents and small parties are thoroughly represented in that system so that it is not rigged in favor of the 2 legacy parties.
Okay, good. Okay, what percentage of the time were you seeing the gold flags flying?
I would say easily 90.
What would you all say?
90.
90? Yeah, I think you were. Now, actually, towards the end, I was actually wondering, because you got more specific, I was trying to remember whether you had really laid out specific proposals or if you had talked about opening elections in a general sense. And we want our proposals to be very specific. One of the reasons we want to do that is to distinguish from our fraudulent Democrat and Republican opponents who talk about freedom and free markets and low taxes without ever getting down to business and saying what they will actually do, because they have no intention of actually doing anything that shrinks government. So I don't even remember how specific you were in the beginning. You might have been. I know you got more specific later.
I moved from general to specific.
But you at least got the idea out there. So normally I would be raising the flag only when I hear a very specific proposal, and I'm not quite sure if I did or not, but I had the flag up anyway. In any case, I think it's pretty clear you were driving. Would you agree that 90 is about what we have here? Okay, very good. What about benefits? What benefits did you hear him articulate?
Fairness, liberty, and justice.
Liberty, justice, fairness,
Voter choice.
Voter choice, that's what I heard.
Power in the hands of the people, not the government.
Power in the hands of the people.
Not tying up the court system.
Not, okay, very good. So on a scale of 0 to 20, what would you give yourself?
Oh, I would say probably a 15.
What would y'all say?
9.
14, 12, 10. Somebody put you right under 10 over there. I thought it was pretty strong. I thought it was over 10. Is there any way that you could see that you could articulate benefits more clearly? It's a tough thing because it's not an issue that most voters are sitting around worrying about at night, right? It's more us political junkies, and you have to appeal in sort of broad brushstroke ways. So it's a tough thing. But
and I could have been more prepared for this. I'm the consultant, not the candidate. But I think that I think with a little more preparation, I could have gotten right out of the box with the benefits to the people.
Yeah, so there's a room for improvement. We'll say it's in the ballpark of, let's say, 12, 13, leave room for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
But you are a certified driver of Liberty.
Whoa.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
All right, who is next? We have got time for one more. Sir. Who would like to be the interviewer? Have we got an interviewer? Here we go. All right.
Good morning and welcome to Spot On News. I am here with
David Macko. I'm the Libertarian candidate for Congress in the 14th Ohio District.
welcome. And why are you running for office?
Because we need someone who will speak the truth in Washington and will give me the opportunity to speak the truth to many of the voters and explain to them how and why the Democrat and Republican parties are leading this country over the brink of hell.
What particular issue would you like to bring to the voters?
Well, there are four of them. First is to stop World War III. Second is to end the police state. The fourth is to keep the third is to keep the economy from crashing. And the fourth, although it is not something that will solve our problems, is a necessary prerequisite to it, which is to impeach Barack Hussein Obama for murder, treason, war crimes, and trying to destroy the Constitution and set up a dictatorship.
Impeaching President Obama, but that would mean that Joe Biden is going to be president.
The only logical argument against impeaching Obama, but after we impeach him and after the Senate would remove him from office, then we impeach Biden. Keep going until we get a good one. Where are we?
I don't know. Okay.
Let me go into detail then about the economy.
Sure. How would you be different from what the Democrats and Republicans are doing with the economy?
Well, I would speak the truth and I would favor liberty. First of all, we should get rid of the federal income tax and replace it with nothing. Second, we should end the Federal Reserve after auditing it and replacing it with honest money according to the Constitution. So that if you have money in the bank now, it'll be worth the same as it is now practically when you retire. Fourth is to get rid of all of the third is to get rid of all of the unconstitutional government agencies.
Amen. What particular unconstitutional agencies are you talking about? I mean, they are, you know, we wanted them.
We didn't. Let's go to the police state measures first. We need to abolish the Department of Homeland Security. We need to abolish the TSA. We need to abolish the FBI. Amen. One of my biggest problems in writing my campaign literature is to find enough synonyms for abolish.
Abolishing Homeland Security, but that was supposed to keep Americans safe. And with what's going on in Iraq right now with ISIS, insurgents may be coming back to the United States. Wouldn't we need Homeland Security?
That's rubbish. If we restore the right to keep and bear arms, no insurgents would dare come to the United States. Right. The Japanese didn't attack us in World War II because they were afraid there'd be a gun behind every rock.
He's gonna drive. Okay, what percentage of the time, Mr. Macko, did you see the Liberty cards?
I wasn't looking. I was busy talking.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's your sense? What's your sense of what percentage of the time are you driving?
I tried to drive all the time.
You sure did. You did. Numbers.
90.
90?
I would say
85?
At least 90.
At least 90?
I'm sorry I came in late and was a little bit tired. I had to walk all the way from that Chestnut Street garage. That's why I didn't start till later.
Well, you caught on. You caught on.
Thank you. I do my best.
You did very well. You were driving 90. Very good. What about benefits? What benefits did you hear of his proposals? He put out quite a few proposals. And that's fine, you can do that sometimes. Generally, as a candidate, you want to focus on 1 to 3 so they're memorable. If you do too many, it's like a shotgun, they're harder to remember for voters. Benefit.
Smaller government.
One benefit I heard was to honor the Constitution, which appeals to me. Really.
Now that's the thing. It appeals to conservative, libertarian, political junkies. Most voters don't care. Sorry, they don't care. Tried and true. We found this out from petitioning and actually asking them, and they just don't care, most of them. So, but it is a benefit if you're talking to a Ron Paul group, a Tea Party group, a Libertarian group. It's definitely a benefit in that audience. What other benefits did you hear?
Lower taxes.
Lower taxes. Anything else? On a scale of 0 to 20, what would you give yourself in terms of articulating the benefits of your proposals?
I'm not totally objective on this. I'd give myself a 17 or 18.
Okay, what would you guys say?
15.
5.
5?
Yeah. I'd say you were really, really strong in the driving department, and maybe you weren't here, so you didn't hear us talk about benefits.
This is true, unfortunately.
But in terms of translating those to how voters' lives are better, it needs a lot of work. Okay, there could have been a lot more substance that you put out there.
Being more specific about restoring their liberty, okay.
And translating it into words that the everyday voter, non-libertarian, can go, ooh, I like that. What he's doing is something that would be good for me and for the people I care about. That's what you want to do.
You know, since the sheeple are starting to wake up, though, can't we bring them up a little bit?
Well, that's how we'll bring them up. By showing them, we're connecting the dots, right? Between less government, liberty, and making lives better. So very good. All right. So we're just about out of time. Does anybody have any last questions, burning questions, before we adjourn for the day? Okay, I think you guys did a fantastic job. I was really, really impressed. Now imagine when you have time to prepare how good these can be and the power you can have in the media and in debates. You can rock. You need to practice this stuff. I urge you to practice. And in the back of the room, we have Arvind Vohra, who's actually running these sessions online using Google Hangouts. Arvind, can you tell them how they can get plugged into that?
Yeah, you basically go to facebook.com/who'sdriving. There's no apostrophes or anything like that. Facebook.com/groups/who'sdriving. We do them basically once either every week or every other week. The other thing is, if you go through this training like you guys have done, you put out any kind of a statement, a quote, an image, whatever, we can put that right on the Facebook page, driving a lot of traffic to your campaign and driving a lot more national awareness to your campaign in terms of volunteers, supporters, donors. Your volunteers don't have to be in your state. A graphic designer in California can help somebody out in Maine. So this training is 100% what's going on our social media. And so if you guys have this, just send it my way or email it to Carla and she'll send it to me.
Okay, so you get that?
Address again.
Google Hangouts is kind of like Skype. It's video conferencing. And we'll give the address again. And it can do about 10 people maximum at once in terms of, you know, having sufficient bandwidth. So you can play this game, and instead of holding up cards, what we do is you take your camera on your PC or laptop and you put your thumb over it, and that's the equivalent of raising the big government red card. And that's how we play it online. So it really works. You can practice this, and I encourage you to practice it as many times as you can. You will get better as you do it. Arvind, again, what's the address that they go to do that?
It's facebook.com/groups/who'sdriving with no apostrophe.
And you will need to download the Google Hangouts app. It's pretty easy to do. I was even able to do it. So, all right. Thank you all very much. Good luck with your campaigns.